Hello, I'm Shane O'Connor, and I like comedy that much, I bought the company. Do you remember that?
Victor Kaya.
Oh, yes, very good, very good. We should do that, shouldn't we? Oblique references to 70s adverts.
Are you still in 70s mode from last week? Because we'll lose anyone under 103.
Well, will we? Will we? I mean, that's a really good point, actually. Will we lose it? Hello, by the way, and welcome to the Comedy Slab podcast. Just in case you're thinking, hello, I've pressed the wrong button here. I've downloaded Wittering Wazzocks from
Wazzocshire
from 1976. Will we? Because I find myself, I have it, and you do as well. I know you do, but I do more than you. But I mean, obviously,
I've no idea what we're talking about. Before I agree,
you got that court case coming up next Wednesday. So no, we have a fascination with a period of time that we weren't born in, like the the 50s and the 60s, and comedy from that era. So why shouldn't people who are around now be fascinated and infatuated with the 1970s?
May I remind your ageing brain, you were actually referencing a razor advert rather than a comedian.
But you said, was I stuck in it because we did Tools Company?
I did, but I feel it might need a footnote or two for a very young and hip audience that, of course, is vast, in our imaginings at least, that if they want to go to YouTube and search Victor Kayam, is it K-Y-A-M? I'm not sure how he spelled it.
I've no idea. Do you know what? I watched him on the adverts at the time and I had no idea who he was, to be honest with you. I didn't, so...
It was the guy who bought the razor company.
The razor company, wasn't it? Yeah. You're right. I mean, for anybody who hasn't got Google, has never heard of it, or has got broken fingers, and the splints are too painful to stab into your keyboard, you lazy git.
You have such a narrow worldview. There are people who just...
Dead people? Who else? Who are we excluded here?
Good people and dead people. Oh, wondrous, wondrous. Are we going to do some comedy news, or are you going to say what show we're slabbing this week?
I was just going to say, this is the Comedy Slab. I'm Shane O'Connor. He's Adrian Lacey. Thank you so much for being with us. But if you've not caught up with us before, each week we choose a comedy program. We'll watch or listen to it, obviously, depending on what medium it comes under, and we'll get together and we have a chat about it. He's quite a way away from me, but that's the way we both like it. And we'll give you an indication of what we thought of it. We'll give it a score each. We'll each give it a score out of 5, giving it a grand total out of 10. Hey, nothing gets past me. Should have been a detective.
Well, once I steered you to help you with the sums in the early weeks.
And we'll also waz a couple of clips in as well of the comedy program that we've chosen, just to enlighten you in case you are of the ilk of the person that thinks, I can't be bothered to go and have a look, I'm so tired.
Is that Kevin, the teenager?
Yeah, something of that nature along the way. So do you want me to, shall I just give it a quick mention what it is, and then we'll just talk comedy news?
Yeah.
Well, it was my turn to choose last week, and I chose the groundbreaking, I think it's pretty fair to say, groundbreaking Green Wing, which was on Channel 4 in the 1990s, would it be right?
No, a bit later. It's 2004, I think.
2004,
yeah.
You're right, yeah. I've actually got that in my notes. I'm such a lazy sausage. But before we do that, comedy news then. And
I was sorry to hear via the good offices of chortle.co.uk, their top story as we speak is Channel 4 says no to more Year of the Rabbit. That's a Matt Berry show. And we put one of those on the slab, didn't we? Some months ago now.
We liked, I think, didn't we? As I seem to recall. I'll dig out the score. Carry on, Phil.
No, it's Adrian, actually. But anyway, always a shame to see a show cancelled. This one is a cancellation after they'd promised to make Series 2 of Year of the Rabbit. They have at least got the excuse that, never mind Year of the Rabbit, it's been we're into the second year of COVID, and that's what they're citing as the reason for this U-turn. So very sad, especially for those of us who are particularly well disposed towards Matt Berry in particular, who is the star of said show. How much more, Phil, do I need to do, Phil?
No, you were doing so beautifully. I just thought I'd let you carry on. It was like it was like watching somebody throw a drum kit down a hill.
That's not a compliment.
No, I'm not sure actually. When I said it, I think Buddy Rich made a career out of that. So who knows?
That's true.
We must be sad because we gave it. Can you remember what we gave it out of 10?
No, but I'm going to guess around the 8 out of 10. Were we both 4s, perhaps?
8.5. We
One
loved
of us
it.
was a 4.5. Yeah.
Yeah, we absolutely loved it. The reason doesn't make sense to me. Am I the only one, or do you understand it?
Well, if you're going to cancel Year of the Rabbit because of COVID, why not cancel Channel 4 News or any other series? It's not easy making shows under COVID. That much is true, but it's not easy making shows full stop.
Well, yeah. I mean, the only thing I suppose I could think of when you said that, then I thought, well, maybe it's that they have a limited number of staff who are working and are not furloughed or are not off for another reason, and so they can only spread their resources so far. I don't know. I'm guessing, but
well, digging into the article, it's more to do with money. Our old friend. And I can see an argument. Obviously, there's been a massive downturn, COVID-related, of course, in the advertising budget.
The good news is, though, that the production company are still committed to it, aren't they? And they're trying to find somebody. I'm not sure that they're going to struggle to find somebody. I mean, it is me glibly sitting here and saying that, but I mean, it was a good bit of schmatter, wasn't it? It was a good product.
Yes, and yeah, of course, if provided Channel 4 say, well, if we're not going to make it, we're not going to hold on to it, as long as they don't play a bit dirty, if one can say that. Unless that would be, we want to hold on to it because we fully plan to make it when there's an upturn again, the other side of COVID. Who knows when that is? But there's it was going to be, or is still, I suppose, it's in the deep freeze, but it was to have been a co-production for Channel 4 and America's IFC channel. So there might be all kinds of creative ways to fund it, get sponsors in. I don't know. It depends how flexible both Channel 4 and IFC can be, I guess. But, you'd always rather these things were made than not made, to state the obvious. And
yeah,
as long as it's not sitting on a shelf as a script gathering dust, that needn't be the end of the world, hopefully.
I just hope it's not the sign of things to come. I do worry that we're not going to see the full impact of COVID and the lockdown until it all supposedly gets back to normal. I get the feeling that you're going to have, and I'm not just talking about comedy or TV or radio production here, but I'm talking about businesses in the UK. I think, we'll take a long, hard look about whether they can go back out into the daylight again and start trading, or whether they have to cut their cloth according to the resources that they now have.
Well, one thing's for certain, I mean, there's going to be massive changes once it all shakes out, and that could be years before we know the full consequences, but it'll be a very different world, isn't it?
Certainly is.
But hey, we're going to need a comedy more than ever, methinks.
I tell you, I need some now. Should we get on to it?
Let's do it.
Okay. Green Wing then was the choice for last week, as I say. Channel 4. Well, it was a Talkback Thames production for Channel 4, wasn't it? I think. And I mean, there's so much to talk about with this in terms of the look, the feel. Do you remember watching it at the time? Do you remember first coming across this as a
do.
program?
I wondered whether, I'm not sure whether you're buying my suggested feature, which I'm trying to wheedle in each week.
Are these my shoes?
That's the surreal twist on it, yeah. But it's because you're asking me a question that will lead to the same sort of answer, not the shoes question, but what did I feel when I heard you set the homework? So what was I anticipating? And I have seen it before, and I saw it when it first came out. But I think, I don't know if you're sold on this, but I think it's an interesting question to ask each other. The person who didn't set the homework, what was your anticipation before we play the first audio clip? What was your first reaction? Were you looking forward to seeing it again? Did you have reservations? That sort of thing. Is that an interesting question, or is it just me?
Well, I mean, you know, you're getting like a politician now. If you could just answer the question I asked you, not answer the question with another question about whether you should think we should ask another question next week. I don't. It's like,
Your question was very close to my question, though, if I may point that out.
This is like Parliament. I don't understand.
Okay. I've forgotten what your question. Can I answer that question with a question? Could you repeat the question?
Ah, well, that question is easy. No, I just wondered because I have got very vivid recollections. I remember coming back from the pub on a Friday night. I just remember coming back and seeing this thing and then just thinking, oh, wow. I mean, you know, before I kind of analysed comedy in the way that we do now, I remember just sitting there thinking, well, that is just so different. And not really knowing what to make of it in that sense.
Yes. Do you want me now to answer your question or have we run out of time? Because you
that was what I thought of it, wasn't it? Yeah, sorry.
It's all about you, isn't it? It's all about you.
You wouldn't answer the question. Go on anyway.
I'm going to answer both your question and my one, which is very similar. How did I feel anticipating viewing it again, which is another way of saying what memories does it evoke? So now quite similar questions. I was looking forward to it, absolutely looking forward to it, because I, like you, had very fond memories of it. There was one thing, and I'm not going to give away the answer this side of the audio clip, but one big question for me, it might not be big for other people. I was quizzing someone today and he'd forgotten this, but I remembered clearly the... I'm sure video editors have a fancy, sexy term for it, but the vari-speed video editing, which accompanied scene changes and a lot of gags, even sub-scene within scenes probably, together with some music. So we'll talk more about that. But I wondered how I would feel about that, seeing it after, it's 17 years now, isn't it, since it first came out. This one we're looking at. So would it look dated? Would it look too much like the technology of 2007, albeit cutting edge at the time? You can't remain cutting edge forever, least of all in TV for 17 years.
Okay. I've got an interesting story about that. The slowing up and the speeding down of the film with Tamsin Greig. If you remind me after the clip, I'll tell you about that. Shall we waz a clip and then
I wish you would waz.
People can have a listen and they can either bring back horrible memories, fantastic memories, or at least know what we're talking about if they've never heard it before. I mean, this episode kind of deals with a lot of character development, doesn't it? Really, I mean, we've been introduced to all of the characters. In this clip, I got a clip of Dr Alan Statham, who's played by Mark Heap,
who we love.
We do actually, don't we? Although if anyone's ever seen Friday Night Dinner, they'll know the character because he's the neighbour in Friday Night Dinner in exactly the same manner, isn't he? The same mannerisms and voice patterns and everything is exactly the same. But Dr Alan Statham is his character. He goes to see the administrator, Sue White, to complain about vandals.
Well, what can I do for you this time, Dr Statham?
I'd like a new badge, please.
May I ask what happened to the old one?
I've still got it. I'm sorry to report it's been vandalised by some bloody
In what way?
Rather not talk about it.
Well, if you don't, I can't order you a new one.
And where does it say that in the regulations?
There.
All right. Somebody has used a marker pen to make some alterations. The badge should read Dr. Alan Statham, next line, consultant radiologist. And on the word consultant, they blacked out the letters ONS and LTA.
I see. So that would, in fact, leave a C, a U, an N, and an O.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
So your badge now reads Alan Statham.
There, thank you. That's what it's been changed to.
Again?
Yes, again.
Well, all right. I'll see what I can do. It's going to take a couple of weeks to order you a new one, though.
What am I going to do in the meantime?
Well, I suggest you black out the bits you don't want.
Well, right, I will.
I'd lose the second line rather than the first.
What?
Just trying to help.
This is the point at which most weeks I realise I haven't thought in advance of a headline, even though we've been doing the show for 2 years now. That's shameful, isn't it, really? Shall I not admit to it?
I thought you were going to say this is the point at which I realised that I've watched the wrong episode of the wrong programme.
That's happened before now, although quickly corrected. It wouldn't be so good in this week because unusually, as I think you referenced last week, this is a longer than average show for us, 50 minutes running time.
Sorry about that.
Give or take. Yeah, I'll get you back though. It's not forgotten that I once wanted to put a full Stuart Lee show on the Slab. We'll overlook the fact it was probably an hour and a half plus. And your reaction was not podcastable, I think. What about something like, where am I getting this from? Wings of Desire. By which I mean I enjoyed the show. But if I have to explain it, it can't be quite clear in the headline, can it?
No, that's what I was getting from it. It was Wings of Desire, yeah.
Or Wing Wing, I'm glad you called again.
Oh, I like that one.
And I think it's certainly been over a decade since I watched it, and it was nice to come back to it.
Here's the killer question for you, though, which was the one that was almost set up by you yourself, is was it as fresh? Was it as innovative? Was it as you remembered it? Was it as brilliant? Was it as groundbreaking?
Well, I think it's lasted quite well. I don't know. Look, I'm a bit conflicted, and you will find I will say things that might sort of seem to slightly undermine my positive reactions just now. But I think it's done well in terms of maybe people are so afraid to copy it because it was so different. Unless I've missed something, I don't think you can point to anything in the intervening 17 years and say, oh, they've ripped off Green Wing. You could twist that into a negative that they didn't want to do it, but I don't. I think it stands alone, and I think it stands up well. But before I forget, Tamsin Greig speeding up and slowing down.
Oh yeah, okay. I was just going to say, I think part of the thing though with that is that Channel 4 haven't repeated it for a while now, although it's on their Generous All 4 platform, the biggest, now it's the biggest, they say, UK streaming platform. And so you can go and watch it for free. Perhaps a whole couple of generations have missed out on seeing it, and so it hasn't become an influence in that way. Is that a possibility, do you think?
That's certainly a possibility. I mean, I'm not aware of it being in the air that people talk about it a lot, which that does rather suggest perhaps if I'm not moving in such small circles, well, we all are to some extent at the moment under lockdown, but yeah, I'm not aware that the torch is being passed to a new generation of avid fans.
No.
And that's a shame if I'm right. I hope I'm wrong. I mean, I don't know if it's turning up in little scene chunks on YouTube or memes or whatever, but it looks pretty fresh for me.
Tamsin Greig, when she said, she was interviewed, and she said when they filmed a pilot which was never broadcast, which I think in this day of YouTube and places that you can stick it, I think it's such a shame that that's never come to light. We've never seen that. But she said when I was filming the pilot, she said I didn't really know what was going on during the whole thing. They didn't tell me, they didn't explain to me. So they just say, okay, we want you to walk down that corridor. And she said, I started to think, is this going to be a really boring show? Just people just like walking up and down the corridors. But of course, what they were filming all the stuff that they ended up speeding up and slowing down and changing. And to say, okay, can you walk in a slightly funny way? And she's thinking, what the hell are they getting me to do?
I think they'd explain a bit more, unless they were really worried that in being too self-conscious, she would do it differently. But then actors are used to being directed. Yeah, all the time.
Yeah, you think the more information that they had, the better. I don't know. Perhaps they were on the hurry up when they were making the pilot. I'm not really quite sure. But yeah, she said I didn't really know. This all. And the one thing I didn't realise until we were researching for this all came out of Smack the Pony, didn't it?
Well, I realised the creator, Victoria Pyle, created that, and a lot of the writers are in common with both shows, aren't they? Makes you it makes me surprised that, to my knowledge, or certainly not in this episode, there's no Sally Phillips, unless they didn't want to make it too obvious that it's related to Smack the Pony.
Although was Sarah Alexander in Smack the Pony? She wasn't she? I think.
I believe she was. Yeah, now you say that, maybe Sally wasn't available, or
yeah.
Be many reasons.
Here's the interesting thing. I mean, normally I'll say to you, what do you think of this, and what did you think of that? What do you think of the casting? What do you think of the main characters? when it comes to what did you think of the script? And it was only when I started clipping bits off to play a couple of clips for the podcast, I'm thinking there isn't. I mean, there's the dialogue was restricted to kind of chunks of a minute at a time.
Where did I read it? I think on All 4 itself, they bill it as you may have seen this phrase, I can't remember where I saw it. I think it is on the All 4 website. It describes it as a comedy, hospital drama-y, sketchy something. But the interesting word there was sketchy, as if it's not necessarily that you don't settle back and expect a really exotic, sophisticated story. You're just absorbing chunks. That ring any bells, that phrase?
Well, I mean, I read an interview with Victoria Pyle, who said that's what once they'd done Smack the Pony, she then wanted to do something that was more sitcom-y, but gave them the freedom that a sketch show gave them to go off in any direction and do anything that they want and not really be tied by narrative and storyline and all that kind of thing. And this is how it was born, really. So I suppose it's picking up on that element of it, isn't it, really? But the really weird thing, I think, Adrian, about this, for me anyway, is that when I first watched it, I never noticed that. When I've subsequently, and I've got the box set behind me on the bookshelf, when I've subsequently watched it, I've never noticed that. And it was only when I came to measure the timings on the clips that we're doing, I thought, oh, that's only a minute. Oh, that's only a minute as well. Oh, that's only 47 seconds. So, as a viewer, it kind of all works, doesn't it? It's either hugely clever or massively lucky, or a combination of mix and match.
I wonder if it's moving so quickly you don't have time to reflect on, these are short scenes, which sounds paradoxical, but probably is. It's because the scenes are short, you never sit there thinking, this is dragging a bit, looking at your watch. I think it's about not outstaying its welcome ever. No scene outstays its welcome. But then we have to deal with this thorny issue of the rewindings and speedings up and slowing down, and taking it together with the music, because that I hadn't remember. I think I'd remembered the visuals more than the music, which is not necessarily like me, because I'm more skewed towards audio normally, being a radio lover. But I think what they're trying to do with the video is a kind of video scratching and almost a sampley sort of feel, like you would do with vinyl, which was well established by then, and there's something of that in the music track. Does it feel like video scratching to you?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think, and see, now I was quite the opposite when I first saw it, and ever since I have been touched. And I've made a complaint, but nobody listens to you these days, do they? I love the music. You can actually buy the album. The album's on Spotify, actually. The guy who wrote it is Jonathan Whitehead.
Yeah, I was just looking. You mentioned Brass, or Brass as you would say. He would say that as well, coming from Lancashire. He did the music for Brass Eye.
Yes.
And The Day to Day, all sort of related to Armando Iannucci shows. So he's earned his spurs.
Oh, yeah. The casting, I think, was quite inspired. But did you get the impression that they were kind of left... You were talking about being directed. I kind of got the impression they were being left to develop their own style as a character.
I don't think I could possibly say, just observing someone, if someone's performing consistently as they do, is there any way of knowing that just by looking?
Well, the only thing I was just thinking of in the last clip that we heard, Michelle Gomez, who played Sue White, the administrator. I mean, she's just bonkers, isn't she?
She's off the scale bonkers. I mean, everyone's bonkers in this show, and it's a bonkers hospital with bonkers anarchy going on. But if you had to have bonkers on top of bonkers, you've got her, haven't you?
Yeah, and I kind of get the impression when she's climbing on the desk on her hands and knees, that's not coming off the page, that's coming out of her head, isn't it, you know?
I can see where you're coming from. You may well be right. I couldn't say with any certainty. There was a bit of a cringe factor, I have to say. We're all 17 years older than when this first came out. That much we can say for sure. And I wonder whether my tastes have changed. I'm very reluctant to take a hammer to what I still think is a fine show that's held up well. But, you know, if I want to be fussy, and frequently I do, let's face it, the price you pay for zany characters like that, using a very square person's word, zany, is you don't have the depth of character. They don't have the backstory in the same way. But if you had to categorise it, it's got to be farce, hasn't it? And so farce is very much in the now, isn't it? It's what do people do now? They don't have long conversations about, 30 years ago I had childhood trauma or something. It's very much, you know, we don't know why she's crawling around on the table. She's just nuts, isn't she? I don't think we ever find out why. Otherwise, that would sort of take the edge off the surreality of it, wouldn't it?
I thought there was a surreality, but I thought there was a lot of reality in there, and I kind of. Not in my later workplaces, but as a younger man in some of my workplaces, I think I've known characters like Guy Secretan and Mac Macartney.
I just laugh every time I hear the word Secretan. Sorry, I did last week.
But you know, when they're like betting each other to do things all the way. I bet you can't do this, I bet you can't do that. And they cut to a scene where he bets him to eat the coffee. Or name the 5 top lesbians. Yeah. You know, or the world's 5 most famous lesbians. I think we might have that in the second clip. So I don't want to ruin that. But yeah, okay, that much there is a reality there. Yes, I agree. And male rivalry is the same the world over. We're just a bunch of jumped up primates, aren't we? Or as Joe Brand puts it, chimps with car keys. And I think I was referring to it coincidentally either last week or the week before about, and I was trying to do it ironically, rivalry amongst doctors. I don't know how I got on the topic if it wasn't to do with Green Wing, which of course you only set last week. But there's most definitely no shortage of rivalry, I would suspect, particularly among the males in medicine, but I'm pretty sure amongst the females too. You don't get into medical school in the first instance if you're not a competitive sort. No.
Anyway, rather than me go on at length about that, is it not time for our second clip?
Yeah, sure. Jack Dee always used to say that, didn't he? Say, you know, the competitive ones stay on at medical school, he says, whereas the dentists just go, I'll just have the page on teeth, please, and off they go. So
we'll leave that there. You can sort it out with your dentist.
The one thing I was going to say is one of the reasons I liked it is that and I think there's reference to this in interviews as well, that it could have been set anywhere. You know, you could have taken those characters and stuck them more or less in any workplace, but they chose a hospital. And so to that end, there's not a lot of hospitaling going on, is there, in that essentially?
No, we don't see, well, we might see background artists as patients, but...
Well, no, they were patients, actually, believe it or not. I mean, it was shot, the corridor scenes were shot in real hospitals in the recovery area.
I did find myself wondering about it because it is, for now obvious reasons, very realistic. I thought they were using a recently decommissioned hospital, but
no,
you obviously
there was. I think when they were playing Geeball in one of the later episodes, they actually hit a recovering patient in the face with the tennis ball.
Well, they weren't recovering. I imagine at the point they were hit in the face.
No, it was filmed at Northwick Park Hospital in Middlesex.
Oh well, I have strong family connections with that.
And the North Hampshire Hospital in Basingstoke. I mean, obviously all the office scenes were shot in the studio, but other than that, they were shot in 2 hospitals, incredibly. But I thought for the second clip, it'd be nice if they were doing a bit of hospitaling anyway. And this is the point where we see Dr Caroline Todd, who's the Tamsin Greig character, has kind of just arrived at the hospital. It's her first day. She doesn't really know what's going on.
Oh, and she's living out of a car, by the way.
And she kind of first hooks up with Julian Rhind-Tutt's character, Dr Macartney. And he says, I'm a staff member down, come and help me with some surgery. So they head off to the operating theatre.
Okay, let's sew this mother up.
Sorry if I seem a bit stressed out. I didn't sleep very well last night. And I did have a rather disturbing lesbian dream.
Bingo.
Would you like to talk about that, or
I don't really remember it.
make it up?
Positions, numbers.
Numbers, positions.
Were they shaved?
Yeah, were they shaved?
Perhaps I could try and have another one tonight, take a few notes, bring them in for you tomorrow.
Can you draw? Your shoes are ringing.
Might be a lesbian.
Or the mothership.
Mum, you're going to have to stop phoning me at work.
Right, for a tenner, name me 5 famous lesbians.
Joan of Arc, Boadicea, and
Boudica.
Boudica, and the Bronte sisters.
Kind of the Bronte sisters.
Okay. Martina Navratilova, K.D. Lang, and
Yes, have him put down.
the Queen of Lesbos.
Yeah, well, a name would be good.
Cassandra.
Cassandra.
Cassandra, yeah. Yeah.
Right, top up time. How long do you need?
I think 5 minutes, thank you very much.
Bet you can't do it in 3.
And I don't think that top-up is of the teapot, is it? It's something altogether more gross and probably red-looking. That's probably amongst the closest we get to hospitaling, as you endearingly call it.
There's a part of me that thinks how frighteningly accurate that is possibly. Because you do hear about people who and they just have normal conversations above the patient.
Oh, yeah. Well, I can go a little bit further because I worked with a sound supervisor in my sound technicianing days, and he must have had a mate who was a surgeon, and they probably did a swap. He took him round TV Centre, took his mate round, and the reverse. He was invited into the operating theatre, and he said first thing he noticed was how much they're mucking around the whole time.
Yeah.
But there is a coda to that, which is, and then he realised how professional that was, that they were so on top of it that they could afford to be absolutely so in control of their craft, their skill, and so on, and they knew how much energy they could leave just to make the whole experience fun.
Can I just mention Karl Theobald as well? The little fella who's what's his name's mate?
Russell Brand.
Russell Brand, yeah, his mate
And co-writer, I think, or it has been at times.
That was only his 4th TV job, and because I knew that before I watched it, I was watching it, and I thought this was the second time I watched it, and I thought, I wonder whether that nervousness that he portrays is a portrayal, or whether it's actually that was how he actually.
Well, he's
felt.
using it to his advantage if it's real nerves.
Clever if it is, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, well, it was said of Frankie Howard, a classic stand-up of bygone era, sadly, that he integrated his nerves into his act, and so many people have nerves, and a lot of performers would tell you they get suspicious if they don't have the nerves, because that's when you start forgetting lines or not really being in the scene and not trying hard enough.
Well, the nerve thing, I mean, your body should be telling you that this is important, shouldn't it? And it should be making you feel nervous. And here's something that, and it was only because somebody mentioned it and it was in my mind, but are there parallels between the way they play up Dr Alan Statham, everybody's kind of winding him up and playing him up and having jokes at his expense. Are there parallels between that and what they used to do to, was it Major Frank Burns in MASH?
Oh, gosh. I mean, I think I only saw one of those, being a Unitarian, as regular listeners will know. And that was so long ago.
But there were the 2 characters, weren't there? There was Hawkeye and
Was that the Alan Alda character?
Yeah.
Right.
And there were the 2 guys. So there's like the 2 guys, and they were always picking and winding up Frank. Frank, you should do this, and because Frank fancied Hot Lips Houlihan, and there was kind of, he was the butt of their jokes, and you better go and ask Frank and all this kind of thing. And I just wonder, it just struck me, and I just thought, oh wow, yeah, set in a medical setting, the two wisecracking guys and the guy who's always flustered and whatever. I don't know. I might be talking out of my ass.
Could well do, but that again, just as you say, this could be any setting in theory, or you could transport the dynamics and the characters. I think any good show has got those elements, I suppose. Having said that, again, I'm teetering on contradicting myself. I did get a bit weary of it being the cool kids versus the uncool kids. And I wonder whether, obviously we were only in this instance slabbing one show, one episode as we do, whether over time, and it's 2 series worth, whether that would grate a bit.
Yeah, a bit too smart-arsey kind of thing. You can think, oh yeah, it's a bit too. Interestingly as well, I read that when they were writing it, they tried spaceships as a setting, which presumably would have come out as Red Dwarf, cruise ships, which are the Love Boat, I don't know, and a hotel, But how are you going to do that after 40
40 towers?
Yeah, you can't.
Yeah.
Can you? You're wasting your time.
I don't know about wasting, but certainly, I mean, we've had hospital settings in serious and comedy type dramas for years. It's inevitable because it's the stuff of life and death, isn't it? But we've never had anything quite like this set in a hospital.
No.
And I don't know, would you ever dare go back to do comedy, particularly surreal comedy after this? You just, if you've got characters as you have who are off the scale, how do you go more off the scale than off the scale?
Yeah.
But someone will do it one day, I guess. So they'll think of some twist.
I'd love to know why it was 50 minutes as well. I don't know whether that was brave or foolhardy, but...
Yeah, half an hour would have worked, especially as we've been talking about short scenes.
Yeah.
Did you find yourself looking at your watch at all, or not?
Not particularly, but then again, it was like it was that wonderful mix of sitting down to something that you remembered as being good, and hoping that it still would be, and that wonderful walk down memory lane, wasn't it, in a way? So you kind of get swept up in it. But no, I didn't. Did it drag for you then, or?
No, but I was aware it was a 50-minute rather than 30-minute. It was much more sort of appointment to view, and I had to be a bit more organised, which is not like me, as you know, because I went right up to the wire last week. So when you set a 50-minute, I thought, yeah, as a busy father, you advised me. You virtually sat me on your knee, virtually, at 170 miles safe distance, and said, take a leaf out of my book. I'm not a parent. You most certainly are, of two young kids. You do things when you've got time to do them. You don't hang around to the last minute because you may not have that opportunity that you sort of planned for. Kids don't work to the same schedule.
What's that phrase? It's 5 o'clock somewhere. It's in our house. It's somebody's pooing somewhere. You're guaranteed, aren't you, really? So, but yeah.
Let's not dwell on that too much.
Anyway, should we get the scores on the mortuary doors? And
like it, but I'm struggling on this one. Can I buy an extra time? I'm sure I've gone a couple of times first, so could it be your turn to go first?
Yeah, I'm quite happy to. And mine is quite simple as well. There's no mystery to it, really, in the sense that I'm kind of I know where I'm going to be with this one. This, for me, is a 4 out of 5. And the reason that I say that are for really the reasons that we've talked about in the podcast this time round. And I still go back to the fact that, and I think, it was a point that you made afterwards. I made the point that we'd never seen anything like this before. And I think the point that you make very well is that we can't really think of anything that follows in its footsteps either. I mean, and it did 2 series, didn't it? And you kind of think that is a hell of a pedigree. To kind of just leave at 2 series and go, well, there you go, that's that, and and fair play to everybody involved in it and all of the writers and the production crew. But for me, it's up there as a classic, if you like. It's one of those for me because it broke so much ground. So 4 out of 5 for me. Okay, well, I mean, yes to a heck of a lot of what you've just said, but there's this nagging feeling. Is it like? Are those short scenes like having loads and loads of snacks, like Monster Munch, and then at the end of it, you realise you're bloated, you're full, but you wish you'd had a roast. In my case, of course, a vegetarian roast, possibly Quorn. I'm not going to specify necessarily, but at least 2 vegetables and vegetarian gravy. Sorry, am I going on too much about the image? But anyway, you get the idea. It's, snack. Wouldn't it be nice to have a full meal? Were there any roast potatoes in there at all, or not? Was there? I think so, yeah, quite a lot of carbohydrate. Oh, okay. But, one's got to be fair. But there's carbohydrate if you have Monster Munch as well, isn't there? So I know what you mean. Does that help or hinder? You kind of you get there and you think, is this good for me or is this not good for me? Is it? And I know what you mean. I know what you mean with that. It's whetting my appetite, and you know what? I'm terrible for this. I'll go back and watch other episodes. So if I do that, I'll report back to you as to whether. Oh, do yeah, and I don't consider it terrible. I'm terrible because I'll probably not watch anymore. And I'll leave my questions for me and for all of us, I guess, to some extent, unresolved. I think I'm going to have to say, with a certain regret, 3.5. I think I would have given it 4 at the time. I bought the DVDs, loved it, bought right into it, heart and soul.
you said the show's done well, but of course it's done fantastically for a lot of the actors, hasn't
Very
it?
much
Tamsin
so,
Greig
yeah.
going from strength to strength, etc., etc.
Well, still a very healthy, very respectable, and nothing to be ashamed of. 7.5 out of 10 for Green Wing. We'll put the link to where you can grab that. But if you don't want to go through our recommendation, obviously, as we mentioned, it is available. Both series are available on the All 4 Channel 4 website in the UK. So, here's the question. What have you got for us next week, Governor?
Well, this is an interesting one in that it's not on All 4. It has been on Channel 4, but it's a buy-in, and I suspect it's the fact it's an American import. Might be something or a lot to do with the fact it's not on All 4, sadly. But you, as ever, will give steers in the blurb next week. I don't know what it is. I have this butterfly mind, and I was searching my soul and searching my memory for something to put on the slab for next week, and out of nowhere popped South Park, which I hadn't thought about for ages, and certainly not at all since we've done the comedy slab.
Can I be a little bit naughty
Yes.
and ask you, because this is the thing that immediately springs to my mind. Have you ever watched an episode of South Park?
I have. I had to watch it once because it's one of those things. It was so much a subject of conversation amongst my friends. It was a big hit amongst them. They could kind of just about tolerate me and my eccentricities and the fact that I don't necessarily fall in with the group verdict. But I have absolutely had to see one. In fact, I was bought a toy from South Park.
Wow.
I think that's probably what tipped me over the edge. I thought, well, I can't have what it probably was Kenny on the shelf and not know who or what he is.
Okay.
Anyway, well, I've gone for sort of randomly, but there is a method in the madness. I mean, I was shocked to learn that it's now past tense, but only just past tense from last autumn, and who knows, may start up again. I'm no specialist on this, but it got to series 23, for goodness sakes.
Oh, they do. The Americans do that, don't they? With their
Don't do things by halves, do
with
they?
the cartoon stuff, particularly. I mean, if you look at what series The Simpsons are on and what series Family Guy's on 2021 or something like that, I think, so.
Well, when they commit, they really commit. So I thought I'd go sort of, it's like sticking a pin in it, but in the middle of what we believe to have been a closed number of series, so roughly halfway in. So we're talking series 12, episode 7. If you want an episode title, it's Super Fun Time. So South Park, series 12, episode 7, Super Fun Time is your homework for next week.
Actually, I do have a bit of trepidation, thinking, am I going to sound like an old man watching this? Because, I don't know.
Almost certainly.
I don't know. All right, okay. Well, that's next week. If you want to play along at home, then look away now. I've just
Listen away.
mixed up a load of different things that I heard somewhere and made it sound like I know what I'm talking about. South Park series 12, episode 7, Super Fun Time.
Right. This is the bit where I talk about, do follow us on Twitter. We are at Comedy Slab, not altogether surprisingly. Similar handle, in fact, identical handle for our Facebook page, at Comedy Slab. Please like the latter and follow us on the former for gags and info and up-and-coming stuff and little promotions from us and so on and so forth. And we would love it if you would give a personal recommendation or even over Zoom to friends and family to listen to the Comedy Slab. Don't forget to subscribe to us, which you can do in a way which I'm not going to tread on Shane's toes. He'll tell you in just a sec. But lastly, from me, a generous star rating on iTunes / Apple Podcasts would be hugely appreciated and makes all the difference to us, and would love you even more. Thank you in advance.
Yeah, if you can subscribe, and you get to know then when it's another episode coming out. Although they do tend to drop on this is UK time on a Monday at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but we do notify you via Twitter and Facebook as well. We're on Stitcher, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, in fact, most Apple Podcasts, most of the places you'd expect to find us. If we're not on somewhere, let us know and we'll bully them into taking our podcast as well, so you can get it on your favourite podcast one-stop shop, as it were. That's it for us for this time round. Thank you so much for your company. Now, they always say, don't they, when you watch programmes, now don't try this at home, but I'm going off to eat a spoonful of instant coffee to see if it's actually as bad. So I'm going to probably be up for the next 36 hours.
And This is putting you on the spot. Do you remember how series 1 of Green Wing ended? So the entire end of the series.
Wasn't it something to do with a motorcycle?
Well, it's not my recollection. I should have double-checked this. I think they ended on a literal cliffhanger. Does that ring any bells? But the point is, I thought I'd end on a cliffhanger, by which I mean I am literally hanging off a cliff at the end of this show. I know it may not sound like it, but, the things we do for art and for you, dear listener.
Oh, he's gone! Oh, my, well, he was so young as well. He wasn't actually, in fairness to him.